Hey y'all, Jay Matlin with Gorsuch Realty here in Lancaster. It's been a while and I haven't seen a lot of you in a long time, so I figured I'd pop on here tonight and we could chat about something that's not so exciting, but is something that it needs talked about, and people need to understand how to deal with certain things on the internet. So we're going to talk about cybersecurity. I know it's super exciting, but it's very important that people in this day and age understand cybersecurity and how to keep themselves safe. And it's even more important during a real estate transaction, because you're especially vulnerable to things during a real estate transaction, and you're perhaps exchanging really private and confidential information with a bunch of people that honestly you don't know that well. I know I've talked in other videos about how there are so many other people in play when you're buying and selling a house, not just me and not just you and your family, but the title agency, your mortgage person, perhaps a home inspector, your termite inspector, all of those kinds of things. And so you're potentially exchanging a lot of confidential information. But this isn't going to be geared just towards a real estate transaction. This is going to be geared towards, anything that things that you can take to your house and use in your daily lives when you're using your computers and your phones. I'm sorry I keep looking away, but I'm trying to do something new here and share my live video to my personal page, because I would like my friends to be able to see this live video, but for some reason it won't let me do it. So let's talk about cybersecurity. So the first thing is kind of an obvious thing, but I think people get accustomed to sharing information. Hey, Caitlin, get accustomed to sharing certain information during a real estate transaction, and they don't really think to stop and question things. So never send confidential information via your email. And I say that meaning your banking information, anything with your Social Security on it, like your W-2 or your 1099, your tax return, that kind of things, because those are pretty standard things that banks are going to ask you for when you're applying for a new mortgage. So the best way to do that, and most mortgage brokers and mortgage lenders and banks are going to have this capability, is if they ask you to send you something and it's confidential like that, ask them to send you a link to a secure portal. Or like several of the mortgage lenders that I work with on a daily basis with my buyers, a lot of times they've got an app that you can download and it's secure, or they can send you a link to upload the documentation to their secure portal, and then they get it that way. And at least then your data is encrypted and it's safe and it's going to the correct person and all of that good stuff. The next thing is, and this is not just real estate related, but this is everything. Before you open an email, do you know who the sender is? Do you know why you're getting the email? Does the subject line look familiar? Is this something you were expecting? A lot of times with my clients, I will tell my clients that, hey, you're going to get an email from such and such from the title company, and here is their name, here is the name of the title company, and here's why they're sending you that information. So if you get something in your email and it's asking for just things that you aren't used to being asked for, question, do I know the sender? Is it something that I should be getting? Just question the email, scrutinize the email. Don't just assume that because you're getting an email asking for information that it's valid. Yeah, Caitlin, real estate agents and loan officers might ask for confidential information. I suppose it just depends on you as the client if you would classify something in particular as confidential information. I mean, typically, I won't usually ask for anything other than your pre-approval letter. And a lot of times as a real estate agent, I've taken the liability off of me and put it onto the title company or onto the mortgage lender to ask for that information. And then that's between them and their client to figure out how to get that information between them. I personally will not usually. It's very rare that I will ask for confidential information, and your mortgage lender should be prepared on ways to ensure that they can transmit that data back and forth securely. A lot of times the mortgage lender is going to ask for the obvious things: a W-2, your tax return, your latest pay stubs, your banking information. A lot of times they either want it in paper form, which is antiquated right now. Like I would never use a mortgage lender that's going to ask for that information in paper form. Even fax is pushing it, even though fax is one of the more secure ways to send information. But most mortgage lenders and most banks and most title companies are going to have a way for you to submit the information securely so that you can ensure that it's secure. Here's a big one, and this has been a huge ordeal, not just in Ohio, but in the United States. People, someone will hack your email account, and they'll go through your email, and they'll figure out that, hey, this person's in the middle of a real estate transaction. Let's send them something, a spoof email. It's going to look like wiring instructions, like, hey, if you want this real estate transaction to continue with this address, we need you to send $2,000 via the wiring instructions attached. Don't do that. No one will ever send you wire instructions via email and ask you to send them money without first telling you that it's coming. I will always tell my client that, hey, the title company is going to send you wire instructions. Please, when you get to the bank, call the title company, speak to the person in the email or the person that you spoke to already at the title company, and verify that the instructions are still correct and are still viable and the ones that you should definitely use. Because the problem with the banking wiring system is once the wire leaves your bank account and it leaves that bank system and hits the Federal Reserve, it's gone. You can't get the wire back. And if it was a scammer that asked you to send them money, chances are by time that you figure out that it's a bad wire and it needs reversed, then they've already closed that bank account, they've already moved the money to another account, there's no way to get it back. So ensure that before you just honor wire instructions, that you actually call the title company and verify that the wire instructions are valid and correct. Another thing to remember is a lot of us have the same passwords for years, and I know I'm guilty of doing this, and I have a background in IT, but a lot of us use the same passwords. We use the same passwords twice. We use the same passwords in multiple locations. If something asks us to change our password, all we do is increment a number, or we add a letter or an exclamation point. My father, I'm looking at you because this is how some of your passwords were. I don't know if they still are, but 10 years ago they were like this. So it's important that even like Gmail, for example, Gmail doesn't ask you to change your password, but it would be a good practice to just set yourself an alarm that every 6 months, set a new password, especially on things that we're used to using on a daily basis, like our email and Facebook and other, online portals that we're used to our computer just logs us in. Those types of things, every now and then go change your password, and then that will force that system to log everything out. Every time you've logged in anywhere, it will log that stuff out. And you don't run the chance of someone getting your password. The other thing to use, and we shifted away from using a regular password at another employer, and we changed to longer passwords. The 20 characters is the minimum on our passwords, and we shifted from the mentality of a password to a passphrase. Think of, your favorite Bible verse or your favorite lyric from a song or your favorite movie title or something, a quote from a favorite movie, and just vary the characters, change some of the things around, add some numbers, and then it makes it easy for you to memorize, but it doesn't make it easy for someone else to crack. Another good one, if you can't think of anything, is useapassphrase.com. If you go to useapassphrase.com, it will generate a passphrase for you, and then it will actually take you how long that a typical password cracker will take to break the password. So the other thing in terms of passwords, if you can, just about everybody's got a smartphone in their hand anyway, or at least something that can text. If your system that you're logging into enables some sort of two-factor authentication, and what I mean by two-factor authentication is that it's going to ask for your password, and then it's going to send you a text with a code in it, or it's going to make you open like the Google Authenticator app and type in a code from the Authenticator app, or something like that. So multi-factor authentication is just based around the fact that it's going to require two means of a password, basically. So usually it's something you know or something you have, something you have, something that you are. So in this case, it's something you know, your password, and something you have is your cell phone. So it's pretty hard for someone to spoof, to go through the hacking technicalities of trying to figure out how to spoof your cell phone and steal your text messages as well. But if the system that you're logging into is a confidential system that you don't want people logging into or to have access to, it would be good practice to just enable multi-factor authentication. And then at least then, if somebody tries to log in as you and maybe they have the correct password, you're going to get a text message with a random login code, and you're going to go, Why am I getting this when I haven't tried to log into that system? And that might be a clue there that some sort of malicious activity may be happening. A lot of times when you receive those codes, there's a link that says didn't request it, and you can click the link. However, we're going to talk about clicking links next. Don't just blindly click links. So the method, tried and true method that I use in my email is if I get an email and say it's from myfedloan.gov, looks like it came from myfedloan, has the green logo, has, you know, relatively correct balance, tells me that I've got a message waiting in the secure message portal at myfedloan. And then there's a link to access your messages. Whether it's legitimate or not, you should A, hover over the link and either look in the bottom left-hand corner of your browser where it's going to tell you where the link goes, or you can right-click on the link and hit copy link address, and then open something like Word or Notepad, and then paste that link in and verify that the link is actually sending you someplace that you meant to go. So myfedloan.gov, check the link to make sure that it's actually sending you to myfedloan.gov. Now, it's important too to pay attention to what the domain name actually, myfedloan.gov is the domain name. It's important to pay attention to what that is and make sure that they didn't do something like spoof the domain name and they added an uppercase I in the link instead of an L. So they're spoofing the domain and actually sending you someplace. And what they're doing, that's called phishing. And what they're doing is they're trying to get you to type in your username and your password into a system. Now, the system is it's gonna probably redirect you and say something went wrong, we can't log you in. Congratulations, though, you just gave a hacker your login to a secure system, and now you need to change your password, and then you also need to notify that organization somehow that that you may have compromised your account, and then generally. Yeah, Caitlin, exactly. And honestly, you say they hate you, but from an IT standpoint, we love the people that actually report these problems like this because it really helps us to try and lock down the system even more. You know, then it gives us an idea. We have something called Fish Alert at Fairfield County, and Fish Alert just sends the email and all of the pertinent technical data that we need on our side to see where the email actually came from, because it's probably lying also from what you're seeing on your side. And that just kind of helps us narrow down in the email system how we can keep this email out the next time. So yeah, just a good practice. Don't just blindly click links. Hover over the link and it will give you the address in the bottom left-hand corner of your browser, or right-click on it, copy link address and paste it into Notepad or into Word so that you can see where the domain's actually sending you. And honestly, the best way to get around that is I'll use myfedloan.gov again. Every time I get an email from them, I just open a new tab in Chrome and I start typing myfedloan and the known good domain name pops up, and I go there and I log in that way and I check my inbox, and sure enough, once a month I usually have a secure message because it's my invoice or my statement every month. But it's just good practice. Just don't if you know what the website is and you know that's the other thing. If you know you don't have an account at that website, I got an email from Capital One the other day. I don't have a Capital One account. I haven't had a Capital One account in probably 10 years. So that's a good thing to realize too. If you don't have an account at that place of business, then don't click the link. And if sometimes they're usually hackers are trying to get a sense of urgency in, and they're making, if you will, you've got to click this link and something bad is going to happen, or you'll lose access to this, or you're going to lose, your contract's going to expire on your house or something like that. If you're really questioning, call the organization. I tell my clients all the time, like, you will get an email from the title company. If you're unsure of what it is, feel free to call the title company mentioned in the email, and they will tell you whether or not the email was legitimate. Yeah, so Caitlin, we do that too, but in real estate or in your personal email, it's just hard to do that because technically every email is from external. But that is a good safeguard. We implemented that at Fairfield County as well, so that we get this big yellow block that says, "Hey, by the way, this came from outside the organization. Be careful clicking on any links or opening any attachments." So yeah, that's a good thing, deterrent when you work for a large organization. So this is for a couple of my friends that always contact me and ask if they should do software updates because Windows is asking to run an update. If it's a Windows update, Yes, go ahead and update it. If it's an Adobe update, you should update Adobe. But be sure that while you're clicking through the update process, it's not asking you to install other things like the Ask toolbar or to download an antivirus software, something like that. Just be conscious of what you're clicking on, but you should absolutely be updating your computer and all of the software on the computer. If you ever, for my clients and for any of my other real estate friends, if you ever question if something's legitimate, feel free to just take a picture of it from your phone and text it to me, and I can probably tell you via text if it's legit or not. You should have antivirus on your computer, and you should keep it up to date. I'm not going to tell you which antivirus to use, but it should be updating on its own every time you connect to the internet, and it should not require you to really have any maintenance on it. It should just update itself. You should be backing up your computer. I know a lot of us at home don't think about that, and we just have stuff on our computer, pictures, music, all of that stuff. But I like to use the 3-2-1 method. 3 places, 2 mediums, and one backup off-site. So that basically 3 different places, 2 mediums, meaning an external hard disk or a flash drive, as well as some sort of CD or at least 2 flash drives or something like that. And then 1 off-site, meaning like if you have an Office 365 subscription or a Dropbox subscription, OneDrive is part of Office 365, and it comes with a certain amount of free storage. So you could use OneDrive easily to push your data to the cloud. At least with OneDrive, if something like a ransomware situation happens where all of your data gets locked out and encrypted and you can't access it without paying a ransom, if you know you have a good backup, and that's another thing, make sure that you know you have a good backup. Test it every now and then, make sure that it's still valid, it still works. At that point, if you had a ransomware situation where they encrypted all of your data and you can't get any of your data back, it makes me feel 100 times better knowing that I have a OneDrive account and all of my stuff's in the cloud. And even if that stuff gets encrypted and I can't access OneDrive, I can log into OneDrive.com and I can restore from a previous backup. So, because at that point, if you had ransomware, you need to take your computer to an IT or computer professional and let them completely reinstall your operating system and everything on the computer, because that ransomware is nasty and it hides out, and no matter what you think you got rid of it, it's not gone. Another thing, and this is something that I think we all take for granted because there's Wi-Fi everywhere, but do not use public Wi-Fi. First thing that's wrong with Wi-Fi is if you connect to a Wi-Fi with no password on it, you may as well just kiss all of your data goodbye, because if it's a big enough Wi-Fi network, someone is stealing your information. If you're going to use a public Wi-Fi, which I never use public Wi-Fi unless I have a VPN running also, and if you have a question about that and how you can be more secure or safe in a public, especially with the pandemic and working from home and working from random places, you should always have a VPN running if you're using a Wi-Fi that is not your Wi-Fi at home. If you want to talk to me about that further, I would be happy to talk to you. Back to passwords. A lot of us are installing smart devices in our house, like a Nest thermostat, cameras, the Echo devices, smart baby monitors. Those all have default logins, all have default usernames and passwords. When you set it up, you'll have the chance to change those default login credentials. You should definitely do that. And then just write it down somewhere. If you have an iPhone, I know this for a fact, you can now lock a note. And I just keep all of my passwords for everything in a locked note on my phone, and the only way to get in there is to know the password to that note, and also to know the passcode to get into my phone. So, there's been some scary stuff in the news here lately about Nest accounts being hacked, and people's Ring doorbells being hacked, and people talking to their babies in the middle of the night because they didn't change their default logins for their baby monitor. So that's kind of scary. The other last thing, and this is from a real estate standpoint, but also you should just do this. Keep an eye on your credit reports. Something like Credit Karma, which is free, it's fantastic. Don't pay attention to the credit score that they're going to display to you, because it calculates differently than what a mortgage lender or a bank would use to qualify you for credit. But it's a great place to check your your actual credit report and ensure that you saw that, it'll even ask you like, hey, like for example, I bought a new camper recently, and I applied for credit at one of the dealers, and I got an email from Credit Karma. Hey, did you apply? Did you give permission to have an inquiry ran on your credit? And that was you can say yes or no, and then if it's a no, then you can start I forget, I can't think of the right word. A dispute. You can start a dispute with your credit bureaus right there to get the inquiry removed if it wasn't actually valid. Yeah, I know, Caitlin, and I totally was going to buy you Wi-Fi enabled baby monitor for Connor before you had Connor, and I'm really glad that I didn't, because that totally freaks me out. So that's all I have about cybersecurity, but the main thing is, because it's going to happen. It's not if it happens, it is going to happen to you at some point in your life using the internet. Is eventually an account is going to get compromised, you are going to get hacked, someone malicious is going to do something to one of your accounts. And what do you do if that is the case? The first thing you should do is change your passwords. If somebody reports to you that, hey, I just got a weird email from you, and I don't think it's yours, but I just want to check. If you want to go through all of the steps of seeing if it really was you sending email, you can check your sent box and see, and blah, 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 blah. But the bottom line is, you just need to change your password, and it needs to be something that wasn't like the previous password. Like I said earlier, do not use the same password twice. You shouldn't be using the same passwords between accounts, even if you follow proper password etiquette. I mentioned wire instructions and wiring money to a title company or something for buying a house. Verify the wire instructions ahead of time, but bad things do happen, and even to the best people. The thing to remember is to call while you're standing at the bank. Always go to the bank. Most banks will not allow you to do a wire transfer over the phone. You actually have to go to the bank and initiate the wire. While you're standing there, ask the teller to call the person that provided, or the company that provided you, and have them do a Google search and even look up like the title company on Google to verify that they have the correct number and it's not, maybe a spoofed number or something. If your email, like I said, if your email's sending weird messages or people are getting weird messages, just change your password and just change your password and leave it at that. The other thing that's going around right now are duplicate Facebook accounts. These are not hacked accounts. Your account was not hacked if there's a duplicate of you that's sending friend requests to your friends. What that person is doing is replicating your account. They're stealing your pictures, your profile pictures, your About Me information, and they're creating a second account with the intent that your friends will add that account thinking, oh, well, hey, someone, they must have created a new account or something, and I'm going to add them. Well, then that person is going to send an email, and they're going to ask you to click a malicious link, and then that's where they're going to get you, and that's where they're going to get your information. So it's never a bad practice to just change your password. When in doubt, change your password. But the duplicate accounts on Facebook, that's just a duplicate account. They're not actually, they haven't actually hacked your account. Now, I have seen a couple of things in the last couple of days where I've gotten a message from a legitimate person that I am friends with, and their account was compromised. So again, change your password. The other thing with Facebook and some of these other accounts, ensure that you set up recovery options, because sometimes, like Facebook, even if you can't remember your password and the person that hacked your account has changed your password, has changed your email address, there are other ways to get into your account as long as you've set up those recovery tools inside of Facebook. And I know Gmail does the same thing. Several other online sites will do that too, so that you can get back into your account in the event that your account was hacked and then the hacker has made it difficult for you to get back in. So that is all for tonight. I'm sorry it was kind of boring, but these are, it's a boring topic and it's something that we don't like to talk about, but this is just something that you and your family need to be aware of. And it's not, like I said, it's not a matter of if this will happen to you. These things will happen to you or a loved one. No matter how hard you try, sometimes things just get through. You click a malicious link, it happens. Just ensure that you're taking as many precautions as you can on the internet and being as safe as you can. Like I said, feel free to ask a question in the comments, or you can send me a private message if you would like to. And I'm always happy to talk about technology. And I did recently just get my E-Pro certification from the National Association of Realtors, and we talked about cybersecurity a lot in that, and how to protect yourself and your clients families on social media. So it's definitely something to keep apprised of. And anytime something new comes down the pike, I will likely post it on my Facebook and on the blog. So if you would, since this is probably helpful to some people, I know Caitlin said that it was good tips. If you would, just please share my video and share it with your friends. I'd appreciate it. Have a good night.